wasn't big.
I'm Jon Fine, the executive editor of Inc. magazine. I'm here with Arianna Huffington, the noted founder of the Huffington Post and author of many, many books, most recently, The Sleep Revolution, Transforming Your Life One Night at a Time. Arianna's accomplishments are vast, varied. She's an author, a noted political commentator, but in my view, her biggest accomplishment is that she has never, ever taken a sleeping pill. I read your book. I didn't stay up too late doing so, which I'm sure everyone says. And it was fascinating. You put a dollar amount on sleep loss and you break it down per worker. You come to the figure of $2,280 per worker in America, I take it. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get all Mr. Burns on you, but doesn't the extra productivity help outweigh the costs from the occasional sleepless night?
Actually, there is no extra productivity. In fact, we lose 11 days a year in productivity because of the epidemic of sleep deprivation. This is really the collective delusion that we need to change, the collective delusion that human beings are like machines and we need to minimize downtime. It really means to disregard all the new science, which makes it very clear that in fact sleep is a performance enhancement. It's fascinating because the science of sleep is relatively new. You know, the first scientific sleep center was at Stanford in 1970. So it's not very long that we've had all these new findings. We now have 2,500
sleep centers.
Sleep centers. You know, there is no university or teaching hospital that doesn't have a sleep center.
As you point out in your book, and as I'm sure you've run into in your social circles, there's a big macho thing about I don't sleep.
Yes.
And to use just one of a million examples, like Martha Stewart has told me and everyone in you, she sleeps 4 hours a night. She's gotten a lot of stuff done.
Right.
She looks pretty darn productive to me. What's the fallacy in everyone thinking that I just need 5 hours, I'm good?
There is a tiny percentage of the population who are known among sleep scientists as short sleepers, and they legitimately do not need more than 4 or 5 hours. They actually have a genetic mutation. So it's not something that you can teach yourself. You can't say, I want to be like Martha Stewart, assuming she has the genetic mutation. I don't know. The rest of us need 7 to 9 hours. Every marker of inflammation, stress, like the cortisol hormone, goes up. And every marker of what we need to stay healthy, i.e. our immune system, goes down. So there's a connection between sleep deprivation and every disease, from diabetes and obesity to cancer, hypertension, and heart disease.
You lay that out in great detail in the book, deeply convincing, but early in the book you point out the average sleep time of several cities. Spoiler alert to readers, the losers in terms of the least sleep are Tokyo, Seoul, and Dubai. And the numbers are terrifying. The average person in Tokyo sleeps 5 hours a night. It's crazy. The thing is this: those are enormously successful cities and countries by every standard. Productivity, businesses, the way they've risen, basically. I mean, what's your counter to that?
The counter is the cost in terms of mental health. Suicides are exploding. In Seoul, for example, it's now the capital of suicides. So it's a very, very measurable cost. In China, which is another country suffering from sleep deprivation, there are now over 100 million people with mental health issues that are stress-related. So the costs are measurable in terms of health, and companies can measure the costs in terms of the health of the bottom line, because the growing healthcare costs because of the epidemic of obesity and diabetes, for starters, is overwhelming. And there's a direct correlation here, because when you're sleep deprived, you crave all the wrong things. You crave carbs and you crave sugars. And it's just a hormonal shift that happens. So incidentally, this is just an aside, but if anybody watching wants to lose weight, and so they put their alarm earlier to go to the gym, forget it. just sleep in, and it's going to be much better for weight loss. Because the worst thing you can do is to go to the gym sleep deprived, and then you're going to compensate by having a donut or something that you should not be having if you're trying to lose weight.
That's my
just in case. I know you don't. I know you don't need to lose weight,
yeah.
But there may be somebody watching who does.
No, fair. So I mean, so there is measurable data in like the costs of sleeplessness, which you're talking about. I mean, like where else do you see it?
I think the other place where you see it is in productivity and creativity, because increasingly, now that we're in the fourth industrial revolution, according to Klaus Schwab.
So what are the four? Let's.
So the first industrial revolution was obviously the beginning of the machine age. The second was Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb, the telegraph, etc. The third is the digital revolution. And the fourth is the growing automation. And with more and more human functions being taken over by machines, the one differentiator that human beings can bring to the table is creativity. And there is nothing that is impaired faster than creativity if you're sleep deprived. I mean, we can all give examples. You know, we can all do transactional things when we're sleep deprived in a zombie state, but trying to come up with a big idea, no.
Surely you had a moment in extreme sleep deprivation as a student, as a writer struggling to finish one of your many books, where you were up, it was too late, you were fried, and you came up with this crazy idea that was essentially crazy, but you got there because you were sleep deprived. Isn't there something to that?
No, I think the correlation that you are drawing is not accurate. She says politely, this is damn
you're
stupid.
You're wrong, that's terrible, yeah.
No, but I can understand why you draw that conclusion, because we are surrounded by super successful people who've been sleep deprived. So that has been the pattern, that has been the cultural norm. We have the whole myth of the entrepreneur who stays up for nights and grows his company. We also need to remind ourselves that 3/4 of startups fail.
So that might be on the low side, actually, so that's fair.
There may actually be an opposite correlation. Yes, there are many successful people who are sleep deprived because they have succeeded despite their sleep deprivation. In the same way, there have been many football coaches who've talked about sleeping under their desk. Despite their sleep deprivation, they have succeeded. I mean, that happens all the time. People overcome huge obstacles and succeed despite them. I'm talking about optimum conditions. I'm talking about what do you do in order to optimize your chances of success? And athletes are leading the way.
There's a lovely section near the end of the book where you talk about athletes who are out front about getting insane amounts of sleep. I think Roger Federer said, 8 to 12 hours or 10 to 12 hours?
Yes, before a game day.
And he built a house for himself to sleep in, so he does
well,
his
when
family.
he's at Wimbledon, yes,
Yes.
he rents a separate house for himself. So that his family is in a different house, so that he can really get a great night's sleep.
Well, this actually comes to a point that is kind of fascinating. So you came to your realization of needing sleep, when you already were an enormously successful entrepreneur. And, you've set up, you've got this very large, very successful company. You've got a lot of support systems. What do you tell the entrepreneur who's starting out? There's maybe 2 or 3 employees, and he or she is on the hook for everything. And so they feel responsible. And there are, when you're starting, there are these mounting intense demands. Like, what do you tell someone like that who maybe has less control over their scheduling and less of a support system around themselves? How do they fix it?
Actually, this message is